And do you know what we're not allowed to say?
What?
How are you feeling?
Excited.
We're not allowed to say that because what we've done is we've gone away and we've Googled synonyms
Synonyms.
for excited.
I'm ecstatic.
You're ecstatic. As you can see me not typing as we are
You're
here.
clicking the buttons.
No, that's not what you can hear. What you can hear is the cogs whirring in my brain.
Ah, right.
That's what it was. Because I am thinking of synonyms for excited. Joyful, elated.
Oh, you're elated about this
Mm.
episode.
I am.
It was a very good one, to be fair. It was nice to have Anaïs and Megan from Team Repair meet us for a chat about their journey into being entrepreneurs, business owners, women in the engineering world, because that was their degree, wasn't it? Engineering.
They had a master's in engineering.
Wow.
Both of them first class honours. But yeah, it was really interesting to speak to two people who were that driven enough to want to become an entrepreneur at such a young age. It's something that I think would terrify me personally.
It would terrify me, but I don't know if it's because we're of an age. You get a bit more cautious, don't you? As you get
Yes.
into the age that we are.
The age bracket that we now both are.
I signed up to donate £7 a month to the RNLI the other day, the lifeboats, and the lovely lady got me on the beach and was chatting to me, and I agreed to sign up. And when she was scrolling, by the way, to find my date of birth, that's a new thing for me. Scrolling. Keep scrolling. I watched it whir by, and I even made a little joke that she didn't really find that funny, bless her. I said, "Oh yeah, just keep scrolling for my date of birth."
The awkwardness. Yeah, we spoke about a lot of things that I think I felt quite nervous to speak about earlier in my career. We spoke about confidence, self-belief, being a woman in leadership, imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I wonder if because Anaïs and Megan are the owners of their, alongside the third co-founder Oscar, they own their business and they've started it from the ground up, and they've had to own the spaces they're in without the protections of a senior leadership team and policies in place to guide you and a mentor to shadow, and they've just had to go in there and be bold. I think that probably does give you the confidence. They deserve the confidence.
You do deserve the confidence. Isn't it funny, the idea of like taking up space? I know you've just recently written a blog for Women Ed, and one of the quotes about the amount of times that women apologise for being a woman in a way. So it's really interesting to get these opinions from such young, strong women. It was really refreshing.
Yeah, I really related to a lot of what they were saying from when I was in my mid-20s, not from now. But the ageism is a real problem. And as they both said, it's not just for younger women, it's also for more mature women. Age is becoming a hindrance. We've had it really recently where we've been asked 3 times in a week how old we are. Why do you want to know how old we are? I feel like for some people it's because they almost give us more merit if they think we're actually in our 30s and not our 20s, but that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah, just trying to pitch where you are in your journey, what you'll have done before, where you're going afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's done without thinking. I never think it's done with malice. I never think people are using it to try and put anybody down. It just comes out in conversation before you've even had a chance to think about it.
Yeah.
And I do wonder if it would be the same if it was 2 men hosting a podcast. Maybe. It could quite possibly be.
I wonder that. I think 2 male co-founders of a company, would they be asked how old they are, do you think? I feel as though I would be curious. I always think if someone looks young, I'm always like, wow, go you.
Smashed it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I don't know. We need parallel universes. Us in a parallel universe.
Yeah, we do.
Or Team Repair in a parallel universe. So I think we've chatted enough, as we always do. Let's go hear what Team Repair's got to say. Hello and welcome back to STEM Conversations, a podcast created to share stories, ideas and experiences shaping science, technology, engineering and maths. I'm Sarah and I'm joined by my co-host Ash.
Today we're joined by Megan and Anaïs, the co-founders of Team Repair, a company working to nurture STEM interests, repair skills and more sustainable mindsets by teaching children how to fix electronic gadgets. They both graduated with first-class honours from Imperial College London, where they completed a Masters in Engineering, and they're now building Team Repair together. The company's been featured by organisations including the BBC, The Times, and the World Economic Forum, and has won a number of business and innovation awards. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us. That was there's a lot of stuff in that intro.
Yeah, quite an introduction.
It is quite the introduction. It's really great to have you with us for this episode. Today we are going to be speaking about female leadership. So we're going to be talking about building a business together and what that's actually been like for you both in practice. To start with, and really for anybody that hasn't come across Team Repair yet, can you tell us what you do and how the two of you ended up starting a company together?
Yeah, absolutely. So we always like to start our origin story with us as kids. And we always say, we were the type of kids who loved taking things apart, whether it was broken or fixed, trying to put it back together again. And we're always kind of very hands-on, messy, creative thinking kids. Through that and various other things, we then both decided to study engineering at Imperial, as did our third co-founder, Oscar. And we met each other actually on the first day of uni ever. We were all put, the three of us, in the same tutor group by coincidence, or maybe not coincidence. Maybe it was all
Surnames.
Yeah, I think it's just because our surnames were alphabetical. The three of us were put in the same tutor group. And then we worked with each other on projects throughout the 4 years until our final year, where we decided to create a business together. And what all of us had in common was that love for STEM and hands-on learning, but also wanting to be more sustainable and tackle electronic waste. And we thought actually all three of us loved repair. Repair is such a great way of getting more people into STEM, but also reducing electronic waste and becoming more sustainable and consume less. And so that's how Team Repair was born. The mission has always been the same, even though the business model has changed a little bit. And it's just giving as many people the confidence as possible to fix stuff. Specifically, we break things on purpose in specific ways to teach specific science lessons. So it's kind of a funny business model. But yeah, for example, we'll send a games console with a broken screen and broken wires, and kids have to put it back together whilst learning about circuits and electricity.
I love that. I nearly said, wow, what a happy coincidence, until Megan said, actually, it was on your surnames.
Yeah.
So before Team Repair, did either of you think of yourselves as leaders, or did that label come later?
I'd say I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, more from the point of wanting to start something and making as much impact as possible. And I saw that, like, starting your own business as a way that you could really pick what you do every day and go towards a better mission. In terms of actually being a leader, I think if you met me at school, you wouldn't really say I had like that confidence of leadership or leading a team at all. I think that's something that really I learned over time from putting myself in different scenarios where I had to be working in teams, showing that confidence and putting together strategies. I think most people can learn that over time by like trusting your gut and doing things wrong enough to know what the right thing might be.
That's funny. On our last episode that I was just editing, we were talking a lot about how we learn from mistakes. We weren't talking about leadership, we were talking about teaching, but I feel like it's definitely transferable.
Yeah, definitely. And it's quite a similar concept to how we put Team Repair together as well, because those kids learning from maybe trying to do the repair wrong the first time and then learning from that mistake is very similar to other ways that you can learn from mistakes. And I always think it is the fastest way to learn and something you shouldn't be scared of. And we should be teaching kids not to be scared of mistakes as well.
Don't be afraid to fail or get things wrong. And I know that I am a horrendous perfectionist and I am terrible at when things aren't right or go exactly the way that I want it to straight away. It takes me a long time to get over things if they don't go exactly the way that I want them to. So it's great to hear you talking about it as well from a business perspective, from, your product perspective. So were there moments earlier in your education or careers that shaped how you now approach leadership?
I think definitely there are a few moments that maybe it didn't make me approach leadership differently, but definitely spurred me on. So I think the first moment when I was at school that I remember where I kind of wanted to prove someone wrong was in year 7. I was diagnosed with dyslexia, and I think it really took a hit to my confidence just because I suddenly had I almost like made the excuse myself of, oh, that means I shouldn't be reading, or like it's hard for me, so I don't really need to try. And because I've now got this label that's explaining this, but I remember there was this one maths test that I did that I got higher than some of my friends, and my friend actually cried afterwards, and she was so distraught. She was like, "Oh, you're the dyslexic kid. You're not meant to be smarter than me." And I think
Wow.
like that was one of my first moments when I was younger, when I was like, I'm going to prove you wrong. I think those are the moments that have shaped me really to be where we are and be a leader, and do exactly what I want to do and not listen to anyone else.
The amount of times I have only succeeded in something because I want to prove someone wrong is the majority of times, honestly. With that in mind, what has it been like leading in STEM-related spaces that are still quite male-dominated?
I think it's most of the rooms that we go into, especially because we started Team Repair when we were
22, 23, I think.
yeah.
Young.
It meant that most of the spaces we were going into, we're usually the youngest and the only women in that room, whether that be a STEM related event or a investment business related event. And I think definitely when we first started out, I kind of almost had that imposter syndrome of why am I in this room? Then I think a turning point from this was I got business coaching, and I was talking about this with the coach, and they said, well, why do you think that you shouldn't be there, and how do you like to communicate with people? And I know whenever I go into a room, I love being able to help people out, give people advice in the same way that they can also give me advice. I think before I was going into these rooms expecting that they have more experience, they've been in the game longer, only they can help me, and it's not two-way. But it's when I started walking into these rooms and realizing like we've got tons of contacts too, and we've done lots despite only being in the game for 3 years, really was a turning point. And then also just understanding that us looking different in most of those rooms almost is a superpower as well, because you can go in and everyone's going to notice that you're a lot younger than everyone else, usually the only woman. So I think like flipping it on its head is interesting.
We have a really great role model and peer in the entrepreneurship space who I remember she was telling us she always wears like crazy colored shoes so that she's always remembered by like a room of investors or potential customers. And I think we remember being like, we need to find something to make us stick out. Whereas when we started, it was all about how can we fit in with this crowd instead of being like, oh my God, we need to look more like professional and old. We're now like, how can we make sure we're memorable in these spaces?
You know, ageism is a real thing. There's a big narrative about people progressing in their careers younger, and they do get slandered, if I'm honest. So I can imagine what it must have been like for you. Sarah and I are in our mid-30s, but recently we've shocked a few people when we've dropped that bomb that thought we were much younger. And I almost think, were they really impressed that we were doing a lot young? Now we're not actually that young.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember actually I was talking about the age thing in like an entrepreneurship setting with some other female entrepreneurs. And then I spoke to a woman who was a little bit older, and she was saying actually it works both ways as well. Like investors look at me and think you're too old to be starting a business now.
Yeah.
We're too young to be starting a business now, I guess.
With the imposter syndrome as well, I think it's so common and really common in women. Again, it's something that we've had a chat about on the podcast previously, but it's kind of ingrained in women to always feel slightly on the back foot or apologize for when you're coming into a room or introducing yourself. And I'm massively guilty of that, but it's really great to hear you thinking of it in that way. So thinking of ways now how you can stand out rather than blend in. On the back of that then, have you found yourselves adapting how you lead, how you speak or show up in those spaces?
I think we've definitely become a lot more confident over time. And I think there's two parts of that. I mean, first of all, when you do something enough times, you naturally do start to feel more comfortable doing it. And we were going through a phase where we were doing networking events every other night. I think putting ourselves in those uncomfortable situations naturally made us better at it. But also, I think as we've grown as a company, we've gained a lot more credibility, and then that kind of snowballs into the more credibility you have, the more confidence you have, then the more success you're able to get as a result of that confidence, and then the more credibility. Actually, we were speaking about this earlier. One really notable moment where we were like, we've actually come a really long way in how we're showing up to these spaces was there's this annual repair conference. It's like the biggest event in the repair world for us.
Wow.
So we look forward to it every year. And the first time we went in 2022, we didn't know a single person. And the goal was just kind of get there and network as hard as we can. And there were some really big players in the game. So we were super starstruck going up to their booth and being like, hey, we're really big fans of you. We've just started this project. Versus then this year when we went a few months ago, suddenly other people and companies coming up to us and like, hey, like you guys are Team Repair, right? I'd love to have a chat. And so that evolution over 3 years, I think we kind of sat back afterwards and we were like, wow, that was really cool.
Well done.
Thank you. I do think like the having more of an online presence as well, and the ability to have an online presence has changed the game a little bit, because it means that we can go out and we can have a voice, and it doesn't matter so much about maybe being in the typical old man's clubs to get where you want to go and to build that network. You can now just post all your thoughts on LinkedIn and start connecting with people that way. And it means that if somebody sees you in a space, they already know you, they already know what you stand for. So I think that's worked for us to our advantage as well.
It's really important to have with your, obviously we've followed you on LinkedIn, but you've got a really distinctive voice. Again, going back to that idea of being apologetic, it's, you're quite bold, you're quite loud, these are all of our achievements, and it's really refreshing to see that. You guys are really just moving forward with confidence, and it's amazing to see. I always feel like I'm championing you from the side.
It's really nice to hear.
Yeah. At the start, we were so embarrassed we were like, oh God, like we know we have to post on LinkedIn because it like helps get new leads and make new contacts, but this is so cringe. And I think now we're just immune to it. We're like, whatever.
Yeah.
So Meg, what's your 3 posts you're going to do this week? Great. I'll post on the other days.
Yeah.
Can relate. I remember when Sarah and we only made our LinkedIns last summer, the summer of 2025. So we were just sort of navigating that space, and we were trying to learn how to use it really and not annoy people, and trying to figure out what people like, who to connect with. And we were constantly, are we doing this right? Are we being annoying? You don't actually have to overthink it that much. You're leading this business together as co-founders with Oscar. How does shared leadership shape decision-making and responsibility?
One thing that the 3 of us have always, I mean, I guess the reason we've always clicked and worked together well, not just on Team Repair, but like I said, we've done tons of other projects together. Some of them were good, some of them were terrible. But one thing that we've always done well was that the 3 of us have quite not only complementary skill sets, but also complementary approaches to doing things. We know what each of us is best at, and so we also have this amount of trust for each other that like we know Meg is best at doing this certain thing, Oscar's best at doing this certain thing. Trust when they are like, okay guys, I think this is the best way forwards. It's quite nice for us to have each other to lean on.
I agree. And I think like someone said to me before, the way to get speed is to have that trust. There are so many times where I'm doing something and I just know I'm not the best person to do this. Like, for example, pitch decks. I put together the most awful looking deck and I'll hand it to Anaïs and it will come out looking lovely. And I think it's almost like getting rid of that ego. I need to be best at everything. What we've really tried to shift to is each of us know what we're good at, but also what we like doing and what brings us energy as well.
I think also actually it's worth saying that it wasn't like automatically like that from the beginning. Over time and good communication, they've gotten a lot better at working together. And as a result, we hired our first like permanent employees last year, and Zoe and Emily joined the team, and they're both superstars. But also I think having had that practice of being able to say, okay, I trust you with this has really helped when we've been growing the team as well.
Ash and I, we work together quite closely on a lot of projects, and we are very much like chalk and cheese as people. We both definitely know our strengths, and we both trust each other enough to play with them. So leadership often comes with assumptions about confidence and authority. How have you navigated that as women leading a growing organisation?
Can I just say, I've just looked at your notes. When I was younger, did you ever watch the Rugrats?
No, actually.
Oh, no. This is the moment
Too
where I
young.
realise. There was a really bossy girl in the Rugrats called Angelica, and everyone used to call me Angelica when I was younger.
Yeah, I guess I've been called bossy a lot when I was growing up. I remember in school, all the boys always used to call me bossy in like primary school. Even in university projects, sometimes I was like, yeah, I'm told I'm a bit too bossy. But actually, no one ever calls a man bossy. It's always assertive for men and bossy for women. So I'm taking bossy to be a compliment from
Yeah.
now on.
Reframe it. I agree.
Yeah, next time someone says, I'm going to be like, thank you so much. I've been working on it.
Especially with fundraising as well. Being able to say something with a straight face and just having confidence to say that, which I think it took a lot of time for me to believe what I was saying internally. So then when I was saying it, it came off that I really believed that. Some advice I got was being able to say with like a straight face in the mirror, like, this is going to be a £100 million company, and you just have to get used to saying that with confidence. And I almost put myself in the shoes of some male founders that I know who would just say that and be like, yeah, of course we are.
Well, we're always told this in like female founder spaces where men will always kind of triple their numbers, like whatever revenue targets they're saying to investors, it will be like triple what they'll actually do. And so if you're going in as a woman, not that you shouldn't be truthful, but like if you're going as like your actual numbers, then the investor will be like, oh, but like this company is like going to be like triple what you're ever going to be. So navigating that push and pull a little bit.
Maybe they're just manifesting. I hope that they get there. Otherwise, they've sort of flexed about it to no avail. What aspects of leadership have you found the most challenging so far?
The most challenging aspect, especially at the start, was when we were very new to starting a business and all of this world. But then we also had a point where we had so many mentors, which sounds amazing, but we also were getting like 10 different opinions every week on where we should be going. And when you're quite early stage, yes, there's all these people who have experience and have lots of advice, but then also you've got yourself to this point where you have already made some correct decisions. So always balancing that trusting your gut aspect and listening to advice from what people are saying to you. And I think I've definitely got to the point where I'm trusting my gut a lot more. It's usually just you've collected a billion data points and you've seen a similar pattern to this before, and you're making a decision based on that. And now if there's a decision that we need to make, I'll book in maybe 3 to 5 calls with my most trusted advisors. I'll talk to them first and see if there's a familiar narrative coming out of that conversation, and then ultimately make that decision based on what I think. So that's been the bit that's been tricky, like listening to people who know what they're doing, but also knowing that we know what we're doing as well.
I just think in life you end up getting a lot of unsolicited advice from a lot of people. Anytime I did anything for the first time, buying a house, changing job, learning to drive, everybody with the kindest of interests wanted to tell me what driving instructor to get, what car to buy, where my house should be, until I felt like I was going to implode from all the conflicting information.
Yeah. I guess because the advisors are solicited, it's just there were a lot of them. But then I think sometimes we would just be in a social situation and someone would ask about the business and we'd be like, oh, this is where we're at. And they're like, have you thought about doing this though?
Yes.
And we're like, yeah, actually we have.
I had one of those at the weekend. They were like, oh, you should do this. It's quite interesting, the advice that you get from people.
What has felt more like progress? Do you have any moments where things started to feel a bit more settled or sustainable? Or maybe not.
I feel like things are never settled for us. That's kind of the nature of startup life. The problems that we have, they definitely get bigger scale, but they're always there. So the amount of different stress points or things that could go wrong are always there. They just kind of change in terms of scale. We were looking back the other day actually over our pitch decks from a couple years ago, and we were like, oh, that's actually really sweet to see, and also like how far we've come. So I think when we zoom out and we sit back, we definitely can appreciate how much progress has been made. We've said we want to zoom out more because I think when we're in it and our heads are down, it kind of feels very day by day. There's always something going wrong.
But I think it is our own doing as well. If we wanted to build a business where it was more a lifestyle business where we could have a calmer life, but we hadn't quite made the same impact that we have, we definitely could pick that. But it's kind of our own doing of, oh, let's release a new product. Let's start this partnership.
Calmer life. Where's the fun in that?
Exactly.
I'm throwing it back, actually. I wanted to ask this earlier, but the moment had passed. Earlier, you were talking about one of your mentors who wears really bright shoes so that people remember her in a room. And at the moment, or when you first started up, you were most noticeable for being such young women. What's your next tactic going to be when you're not the youngest woman in the room anymore? Have you thought about what are you gonna do the bright shoes? Are we gonna have hair colours? Like, what should we do? Asking for me and Sarah.
We were talking about new haircuts.
Yeah, we should get matching bobs and fringes.
Okay, well, if you see me and Sarah doing it first.
Ours is very similar already, I think.
We've turned up to like very professional conferences in our boiler suits.
I was also just thinking about the pitch event we did where you were in a green suit and I was in a red suit.
Yeah, we always have broken toys in our pockets at networking events to stand out. So like when we're explaining the business to someone and then maybe they're losing interest, we're like, look at this broken game console in my pocket.
Yeah.
To make
Cool. I don't think Sarah and I can necessarily have a reason to adopt a boiler suit, but we'll think about it.
I think we could. I think we can find a way.
Do you think about the influence you have on other women entering STEM or business?
Definitely. I think it's something that, looking back, we've had this discussion of there wasn't necessarily like role models that we could say that we were looking up to when we were younger, especially like within business, with engineering. And now you see it's so important for younger people to have those role models. Actually looking at our journey, the most important role models have been those who are like 6 months or a year ahead of us, that have been people who are much closer to where we are, where we can see that we could feasibly aim for that goal that they've just hit. And that's something that we also want to pass back to people. So if there are people who did the same course as us at uni or are at school thinking about where they want to go, do a similar uni course to us, we always want to help out as much as possible. So like a quick 15-minute chat with someone can really help them. Another way we do this as well is we sometimes offer placement students to come and spend a week with us, which is always very fun.
On that role model piece, we both really enjoy going back into schools and giving talks to the students, whether it's about career or science in general. And I think sometimes something that we both like to do is have a slide with different role models that then students can also look up to. So other women in the game who are also building businesses and doing really cool things.
I think it's so important, isn't it, to see that representation. Okay, so to end our conversation then, we always like to ask for one key takeaway. What's one idea or piece of advice that you'd love listeners to carry away with them after this episode?
I'd say one piece of advice is just give it a go. The worst thing is you're going to learn from a failure, and that's a pretty good win.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good advice. Also, just have fun with it and pick something. If you're thinking about entrepreneurship or even careers, pick something that can get you out of bed in the morning, even when things aren't going to plan. We both love our mission, and we really want to get more kids into STEM, and also we really care about the sustainability piece. And so, I think that will always give us the motivation in the morning to kind of do the best we can.
Thank you both for joining us on this episode.
Thank you so much for having us.
It's been so good hearing about all your experiences and building Team Repair together. So we appreciate how honest and open you've been. It's been great.
Thank you to everyone listening. Don't forget to follow STEM Conversations wherever you get your podcasts, and join us next time for more stories and ideas shaping science, technology, engineering and maths.